They exited out the front door. They had no idea what they were in for. Now they're staring at 6 men with guns drawn. It was an effing ambush. This was an effing bomb dropping on Beaver Cleaverville. For a few seconds, this place was Armageddon. There was a firefight!
No, I've never seen this movie. I didn't just watch it on St. Patty's Day. It's not my second favorite movie of all time. No. Whatever could it be, Justin? Are there some saints?
Maybe
Are they
best,
Irish?
William Dafoe performances of all time.
Are they in Boston? Man, did somebody train to kill zombies in Atlanta and Boston by killing the mafiosos?
You lost me on that part.
Homeboy is in The Walking Dead.
Oh, okay. You're making connections. I see. You're swirling all over the place.
Yeah. That's the Boondock Saints, man. Come on. Like you said like 2 words, and I'm like, brother, come on. I know where we're at now.
You and I have unfinished business.
Oh? And what's so stinking about it?
Non me ne faccio il feeling. Spirito Santo.
I think this just might be my masterpiece.
Welcome to episode 19 of the Average Joe's Movie Clubcast. This is Justin.
And I'm Joey.
And on this episode, we're going to need for you to go our tempo as we enter the fiery world of college jazz band and Damien Chazelle's debut feature film, Whiplash. Plus, we're going to be talking about one of the most hilariously cringy movies I've ever seen with Joey's challenge movie, Tokyo Gore Police.
Hey, just a heads up, everybody. We do discuss our full thoughts on these. So if you haven't seen one, just skip forward to avoid spoilers.
And if you want to be a part of the club, make sure to hit that subscribe button. We'd love to hear from you. And join the club. Check out what movies we're watching ahead of time and join the conversation. So, Joey, it's a brave new world out there. How you doing?
Man, let me tell you, it's been wild. I'm not even gonna lie. It's been wild. I'm sure everybody knows what's been going on. COVID, Corona, whatever you want to call it. It's been wild. My job's been crazy busy. Like it's been like a week of Christmas this past week. Like we did like $25,000 in a week, 30,000, something nuts like that.
It's been super busy.
Oh, hell yeah. Like, 'cause, the schools have been out. A lot of people have been out of work or expecting to be out of work. So they've been coming in buying systems and games. And, it's been nuts. Like, to be honest, until today. And then today was a completely different kind of nuts because today they moved it to where it was only buy online and pick up in store. So, and then our system like that isn't super big, like maybe somewhere like Best Buy or something. Uh-huh. So like across the whole company, people were just having like hour waits for stuff. Like we had 2 orders processed the whole day and only one picked up, and I was there from 11:30 to like 7:30. Yeah, nah, it was a wild. It's been wild, man.
I guess we should probably stay on the topic on my end. So yeah, I've been I get to work from home, so I'm very fortunate to be able to do that. Although my kids have been out of school for a week, and then Berkeley County just announced that the schools are going to be closed indefinitely. So yeah, we have no idea when we'd be going back. Thankfully, my work is whenever they said it was that we could tell the work, they were prepared for 30 to 60 days. So, they were definitely positioned for a lengthy period of time. I think they're going to mirror what the schools are going to do because, it's kind of hard for some people to work when they have kids in school, which I'm pretty fortunate because a lot of people probably aren't in that good of a situation with essential businesses that have to stay open, right?
Yeah. So I'm sure I've mentioned what company I worked for before, or if not, you probably picked up on it. I'm not going to mention it by name, but they've been in some hot water the last few days all over the internet and Reddit for some of their business practices. And in Pennsylvania, they had their business license revoked for trying to claim that they were an essential business after the Pennsylvania governor was like, no, everything that's not essential shut down. Mm-hmm. So, no, it's been crazy. So in 3 states, New York, Pennsylvania, and Cali, my company is completely shut down. And I have a feeling it's coming sooner rather than later, at least here. But not yet, but we'll see.
So are you in danger of being laid off?
Not laid off. Since I'm full-time, I thought we would get hazard pay because that's how it happens like with hurricanes and stuff. But since I'm full-time, hazard pay, I would get hazard pay for however long I'm out. But our insurance company doesn't cover that apparently. So what would happen would be I would have to use all of my PTO, which I have 2 weeks of PTO. I think I have 2 days of personal time and about 2 days of sick time left since I had the flu earlier this year. But they did say that anybody who was full-time, they would give 2 additional weeks of PTO. So now I have about 5 total. I have like 4 weeks and 4 days of paid time off. So I have like a month. Mm-hmm. So like if, we go into quarantine and we're shut down for like a month, I'm pretty okay. Mm-hmm. And then, if we ever that aforementioned, or not aforementioned, but supposed stimulus check ever comes, mm-hmm. that's more than I make in one paycheck. So, essentially I could, in theory, have 3 checks. So.
Yeah. So I used to work telework back in the day, but for about a year and a half. But this is a whole new ballgame because we have all the kiddos here all the time, and they get all these like assignments sent. So we're like having to go through all this paperwork and all these apps, filling out all these assignments, and they don't want to do that at home. I mean, it's hard to get them to do homework as it is, and like I can see like when they're at school, like them wanting to do schoolwork because that's what their friends are doing. But here they want like none of it, so it's twice as hard. So yeah, definitely hats off to any homeschool teachers if they happen to be listening. Not sure if that's our audience or not, but go in the comment section if you have an education background. I know Ben does. Shoot, he's a librarian. He gave me a call earlier today. I need to check back in with him.
I said my brother and sister were homeschooled. So, that's what my mom and my stepdad did, was homeschool them. So I can only imagine. But, that's how they were, like, their whole lives. So, I guess that's completely different.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, pretty much tons and tons of homework. That's what the kids are dealing with, and they have the mindset of it being like Christmas vacation, so summer break, whatever. But yeah, before the world shut down, I had the cool experience of going to my first drive-in theater, which was pretty fun. We went to the Beaufort Drive-In, which you had said you'd been to before. We saw Onward and the Call of the Wild, so that was a good time. We sat up in the front. Got there about an hour early, and oh my gosh, the sand gnats down there in Beaufort were awful. So we were like getting eaten alive by these sand gnats. So that was kind of a bummer. Eventually they lit some citronella candles and it cooled down, so they went away. But I like had the master vision. I had this portable PA system and had an FM tuner. And so I went and got my snacks or whatever. It took kind of a long time to get those in the line, and went up to my seat and turned on my FM tuner, and the thing is staticky as heck. And so me being kind of an audio enthusiast, having staticky sound, that was driving me absolutely crazy. I figured out if I kind of laid it down on its back and pointed the sound up, like the static wasn't as noticeable. And I kind of like tucked my ears into this like toboggan hat, and I didn't hear the static quite as well through the hat. So yeah, some things aren't going to be perfect, but I mean, there was a certain novelty to it. There's this part in Onward where like this tavern catches on fire, and like at that very moment I started smelling like the little candle in front of me. So that was kind of had a 4D effect to it.
I read I didn't read the article. I saw a headline and I meant to click on it and I just didn't read it. That the few drive-ins that are all around the country that are still in are seeing like record profits now, because actual movie theaters are shut down. But since you drive in,
you're kind of in your own space.
Yeah, you're quarantined within your own space. You're doing the social distancing thing. So I don't know how true that is, but it was a thing I saw. And I was like, that kind of makes sense.
Yeah, I would have never thought that they could stay open, but yeah, it seems like there's something there.
So.
A little bit of cheater. I'm gonna cheat on some of my movie watching here. Been on a kind of a kick with, I don't know, I've just kind of been in the mood to watch some 80s comedies. So I got in some John Hughes classics lately. Like I watched Weird Science and Ferris Bueller's Day Off for the first time recently. So interesting movies. Didn't you get Weird Science on Arrow Steelbook recently?
I did
on the last movie.
On the last sale, yeah. I like John Hughes. It's just been a long time, with the exception of maybe like The Breakfast Club. Actually, I think it's probably been a while since I've seen that one too. But the ones I remember seeing when I was younger, like I really enjoyed all of them, and I would like to rewatch them. And Breakfast Club is definitely on my list of movies to pick up probably on the next Criterion sale. Yeah. Assuming that I'm not broke or something. But then there's so yeah, I would definitely say I like Hughes, and then Kevin Smith talks about John Hughes all the time in his movies. So
yeah, I could definitely, like with Weird Science and Ferris Bueller, I think I would have got a lot more. Like I think I definitely would have gotten some nostalgia value out of those if I would have watched those as a kid, because it's all about like being kind of a social rebel, and yeah, Weird Science is all about these two nerd kids coming up with the perfect girl to, and gosh, where am I going with this? I guess I'm just saying that yeah, I think I'd have more of an attachment to these movies if I would have seen them earlier. But they both do a really good job at kind of rounding themselves out with some good heart and kind of a moral to the craziness at the end. So yeah, it's been fun to check those out. I need to see. I think I've seen Uncle Buck before, but it's been a while, so I need to rewatch that. And I think he did Curly Sue and then this one other movie. So I'm almost done watching all the John Hughes movies this year, which is kind of cool.
I've never seen Ferris, but I have seen Uncle Buck. It's been a very long time. I've definitely seen Weird Science and like I said, Breakfast Club. I don't remember if I ever saw like Pretty in Pink or I definitely haven't seen Curly Sue, but I definitely need to see some of them. And bringing up Ferris Bueller, I think we're in that same movie March Madness thing for comedy specials, and seeing how some of those voting things have broken down has made me very sad at some of these people's opinions. But I guess that's neither here nor there. Especially some of the things that went down today. Some movies that are Lebowski lost.
Oh, okay.
To Spaceballs. And,
that's nonsense. I can't stand that movie.
And some of the rankings don't make sense, like some of the seedings, and I mean it's all nonsensical anyway. But like Mean Girls lost to something that didn't make any sense for it to lose. Okay, I think it lost to Friday, and don't get me wrong, I think Friday is a fine movie. But whatever. I'm not going to tangent here. Continue about.
Yeah, I need to check back into that site. That site doesn't really alert you as much about those polls as I was hoping. So yeah, I need to check back in and see if I can still get any votes in. And yeah, I darn messed up. So last night I had fully planned to have a double header of tonight's two movies, Whiplash and Tokyo Gore Police. And I got in a little bit of a vodka mood, and so I made myself a little bit of a vodka drink and sat down and I rented Invisible Man, because it's a brave new world where movies in the theaters can be instantly brought into the home. And yeah, a few minutes after I finished Invisible Man, I started Tokyo Gore Police, and I started nodding off, and yeah, I was pretty much in and out that whole movie. The vodka had done me in. And so today, wrote a few reviews, and it's like, all right, I got 7 hours till showtime. It's time to watch these movies. So I watched them back to back this afternoon. So I'm fresh and ripe to talk about these movies. So that's kind of a new experience for me.
Oh man, you're pulling a me here.
Yeah, plus the notes. But I was actually I took notes as I was watching the movies this time, so I kind of consolidated. All right, let's get in a little. You ready to do a little movie pick'em game?
Yeah. I'm gonna kind of do this on the fly because I'm gonna be real. I kind of fucking forgot about this. So. Yeah, we're just gonna do this on the fly.
All right.
So, would you rather? I'm gonna go with two OG classic movies here because I watched both of these about the same time a couple years ago. So I'm just gonna see where you stand. Would you rather watch Citizen Kane or Casablanca?
That's a good question. Good question. I've been thinking about Casablanca a lot lately because I listened to Leonard Moulton's podcast, and that's his favorite movie. I probably saw those around the same time in high school. It was kind of the period of time when I was getting a lot of those classics. I'd probably go with Kane. That's kind of regarded as like, I mean, they're both like among like the best movies of all time, but I do think I'd have a little bit of a hankering to watch Kane first, although I'd like to see both of them. Hopefully sooner than later. But yeah, I'd go with Citizen Kane. How about you?
I think I'd pick Blanca. I watched both of them in like the same week when I was in 2018, so about 2 years ago from here, like literally almost two. I think in my like Facebook memories, it was like exactly 2 years ago when I was doing my countdown to 1,000 movies. They were both in my countdown to 1,000 because I hadn't seen either one of them. And Casablanca was like my number 2 movie from that year. Okay. So
I remember it being a little slower in the middle, but
I mean it probably was, but like I just loved it. And I like today I got into the Criterion group on Facebook, not Criterion, Letterboxd, and people were like listing the like, oh, here's my top movie list, and I like listed mine that I made sometime last year, and I was looking at it and I was like, how the hell do I not have like Casablanca or Breakfast at Tiffany's or some of these other movies that I watched? Because like I watched a lot of good movies from 2018 and last year, and some of them I was just looking at it, and I was like, how do I not have these in here? And I just have all of these movies that I have like such fond memories of like watching as a kid, and I have some movies that I've watched as I've expanded my taste, and I'm like, but like I don't have Casablanca, and I was like, that's kind of stupid, but whatever. But I would probably pick Blanca. I fell in love with that movie when I watched it. So,
was there a movie within that list that you really didn't see the appeal in?
There was, but it was unfair, I think, and that was Apocalypse Now. But that was before we really just kind of started just renting movies and we're willing to rent them on Prime. We were still trying to like use a lot of like the free apps, and when we got the Redux, like just a super long version. And so it was just really long and just not super good. But I was like probably of the list of the 10 movies, that one and The Exorcist, which I still enjoyed The Exorcist, but those were probably my two least favorite. All the rest of them were just like crazy bangers because like we finished with Hidden Fortress, and like we watched Doctor Strangelove, Taxi Driver, Blanca, Citizen Kane, Breakfast at Tiffany's, like because everything was like pre 1980 on that list, like so.
Yeah, Apocalypse Now can be a little hard to get into. Like some of like the war scenes in that movie are way pretty awesome. But yeah, it's pretty surreal. So I can see I kind of had mixed feelings. Even this last time I watched it, I picked up the 4K, this brand new cut of it, which was pretty good. But that's kind of a hard one to get into. And Exorcist, that's like one of my all-time faves. So I'm kind of curious why that didn't swell with you. Yeah. Kind of whenever I think of movies like in that kind of area, like the greatest of all time ones I've seen Vertigo twice, and both times I've been like underwhelmed by it. So that's like my go-to for like, I mean, I can definitely see like some good aspects about Vertigo, but overall like it kind of falls flat for me. And then like when I saw it on the big screen, I went to one of these TCM like screenings, and like the projector, like there was like lines going down the screen like every few seconds, so that was really annoying. So not the best theater experience with that one. But even the first time when I watched it on Netflix, I was like, it ends like that. So have you seen Vertigo?
I have not, and that's actually one that's been on my list to watch because everyone tells me that it's amazing. That and Maltese Falcon is another one that I've
I need to see that one still.
Yeah. So the other two movies that, since I've mentioned literally every movie but two on that list in that countdown, was Jaws and To Kill a Mockingbird. And maybe The Exorcist, because I watched Jaws, like, and that was the other, like, the big horror movie, like The Exorcist just, it didn't cut it for me after Jaws, because Jaws just was such a powerhouse. And, like, I mean, maybe The Exorcist wasn't, like, to me, things that could actually happen hit me so much more than stuff that's what's the word I'm looking for?
Yeah, I've seen a lot of people that aren't like big into faith, like kind of mocking The Exorcist, saying that it's not scary, but like I've always been a pretty religious person, and so when I saw it as a little kid, it really got under my skin, and I've appreciated it ever since. And like these last few times I've watched it, like the film aspects of it really jump out to me a lot more. And yeah, I think it's a pretty brilliant movie. But yeah, if demons don't scare you, then The Exorcist might not be as effective.
Well, it's more of I think things that are real or could be real versus things that are supernatural just hit more home. And so obviously like a shark terrorizing a coastline, especially back in the 70s, you know, could be a thing. And, you know, we've had, you know, some shark attacks down at, you know, on the coast of South Carolina in different beaches, you know, obviously not to that extent, obviously, but, so just, and, you know, that's kind of, and that's one of like the big movies of all time. It's a big Spielberg and, you know, all that kind of stuff. So it's just,
it's a great movie.
Yeah, it just hit me more than The Exorcist did. And I don't think The Exorcist was bad. It just appealed to me more. And then, you know, I finished with Hidden Fortress, and I think at the time that was my second Kurosawa, and I was just like, oh my God, this movie is fantastic.
Nice.
So, yeah.
All right, let's get into more of what we've been watching lately with the good, the bad, and the ugly. All right, so my list is holy shnikes. This is an action movie, Brave New World, and a fandom I actually am kind of picky about.
Well, I only again somehow have 3 since the last time, so
okay.
We'll go.
That makes it pretty easy to choose.
We'll go with that was kind of disappointing. Holy hell, I still love this movie, and wow, that was pretty good.
All right, you want me to go first, or?
Yeah, sure. Well, you have holy shit, now this is an action movie.
All right, so I finally watched Hard Boiled from John Woo.
I'm so jealous.
And I don't know. I guess I guess since I saw Mission Impossible 2, and that's like super cheesy, I kind of always had this envision that it would be kind of old and cheesy feeling. But nah, man, this movie is very modern, has a very modern feel to it. I think it was only came out in like the early 90s. But this is like guns ablazing. It's just such awesome shootout after awesome shootout in this movie. And I'm real picky about subtitles, and it got to a point in this movie where I kind of stopped caring what the subtitles were saying, and I was just kind of getting into all the action, because it was action scene on top of action scene. And there's this one great action scene where like these motorcycles zip into this warehouse, and they're zipping around doing all this stuff, and then this awesome ass music like kicks in, and gosh, what's the name of that actor?
Chow Yun-fat.
Yeah, Chow Yun-fat. They come in busting through the ceiling, like rappelling down, scurrying bullets all over the people, and man, it's awesome. And then the end gets super silly because they like there's this whole like hostage crisis in a hospital, and Chow Yun-fat's running around with his baby, and it's pretty awesome.
Man, I want to watch this movie right now. I'm so hyped. I will say that it is funny that you watched this, because that was for season 2. There is one of the ones that you put down as one of your subjects, and we'll get more into this next week, or not next week, next episode. And Hard Boiled was one of the ones I almost picked. I did not, and it was almost picked, so it worked out that I didn't.
All your picks are set in stone already. I got to revisit those lists.
I've changed one once, and I've changed one twice, but yeah, they're pretty much set.
Okay, I need to revisit that, because we should announce a few of those come next episode. All right. Yes. You said one of yours was disappointing?
Yes, one of mine was disappointing. All right, so I assume that's what you're picking. So I watched two movies on St. Patrick's Day, and they were both Irish in nature, since I am also Irish. And this one I've been looking forward to. It was Steve McQueen's Hunger. With one of my man crush boo things, Michael Fassbender.
Right.
So the movie was not bad. And when I say it's disappointing, I don't want people to think that I thought it was a bad movie. It's just I have a pretty decent review written of it on the Letterboxd here. But
yeah, I think your opinion was pretty similar to mine on this one.
Yeah. It felt like there was two movies. And it was like this build to till they got to the hunger strike, because it is about a hunger strike in a prison. And he's in the IRA, and once it gets to that point, then there's like a lot of nature shots, and you kind of forget about these other characters that had been in the beginning of the movie. But Steve McQueen does a very great job of making you understand that this is a very squalid they're living in very squalid conditions. It's very grim. It's very grisly shots. They beat the living shit out of these guys. So on that aspect, it's very good. I
think the shit mural on the wall is what is my lasting memory from this one.
Oh yeah, and then it goes in, and they have to use that air or the water pressure machine or whatever to like clean it off. I don't know. I just like the whole second half. I don't even think it was a half, but that whole second part of the movie, and it's just Michael Fassbender. And these are spoilers, so if you don't want to hear this part, this is a point to fast forward. Dying, like the whole movie, and there's like no dialogue or anything. And then there's nature shots, and then at the end of the movie, there's like text dialogue, and right before the credits, where he's like, "This is what happened, and this is many people died," and I'm like, this could have been, instead of these nature shots, you could have been like showing me what happened to the other inmates and showing me what was going on in the outside world. And someone commented that, the idea was to kind of show what was going on in the prison and stuff. So, okay, well, don't show me the outside world per se, but, you could show me what happened to these two other guys that you spent half the movie telling me about, showing me, making them important. But, again, it was a very powerful movie. It did show a lot of really powerful stuff. It just, I don't know, maybe because I've had this Criterion movie for 6 months, 8 months. I don't know. I've had it for a while, and it finally just ended up being the day to watch it. And it just, I don't know. Maybe I was expecting something different. I don't know. It just didn't hit the way I expected it to.
I look forward to see his following film, Shame and 12 Years a Slave. I think they're just as grim, but I think the stories are a little bit more compelling. It's kind of hard to get into Hunger, I think. I think the historical context around that one makes it feel like you're kind of at a distance with that one, was kind of my perspective on it.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard nothing but great things about 12 Years. I mean, obviously it won like 100 gazillion awards or something.
Yeah, I got Best Picture that year. So It's very grim. All right, so I guess I'll go...
Let's do Brave New World.
Okay, so like I had mentioned earlier, I'm kind of excited the fact that I want movie theaters to survive for sure, because like I like that experience of going and seeing movies with my kids, but I also like the option to watch them at home whenever I can't make it out. So yeah, we rented The Invisible Man. I wanted to check that one out, so I streamed that right away, and yeah, it was it's a really good thriller. I mean, if you see the trailer, it's pretty much that for 2 hours. I mean, it's a really, really good paranoid thriller. Some great startling moments. I mean, the lady has she's messed up in the head with, how much this guy kind of manipulated her and then manipulates her like through him. What happens kind of in the middle part. I guess that'd be more of a spoiler. But yeah, Invisible Man, definitely worth a rent. If you want a good, kind of a thriller. It's a good one to check out right now.
All right, yeah, the right now with everyone not being able to go to theaters and stuff, being able to rent at home, and plus it's so much cheaper. If like for me, it's about the same. It's I'm assuming it was like $10 thereabouts.
It's $20.
Okay, so for me, it's more to rent at home than going to the theater. But, for you, I'm sure it's a lot cheaper, than taking your whole family,
at
$15-ish a head.
And a lot of times with me, like I have to get a baby. Like if I'm going to go see something like The Invisible Man, I got to get a babysitter to watch the kids and all that kind of stuff. So sometimes I take, like with Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, I actually like took a half a day off of work to go see that. So
yeah. Or, if you're going to see, I don't know, Onward, if you're taking you, your wife, and all three of your kids, that's what, $60, $70 just to get in, give or take.
And then, of course, they're going to want popcorn and all that stuff. So
yeah, you're talking over $100 just to go to the theater, and that's a bit ridiculous. So
yeah, I'm looking forward to this new Trolls movie that's coming out in a few weeks. You get to rent that online as well. So kids are excited about being able to watch that at home.
Yeah, that'll be good.
All right. What's another category for you?
I had I Still Love This Movie, and that was really good.
All right. What was really good?
The Usual Suspects.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
First time watch?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I hadn't seen it before, obviously, first time watch, and Carl had kept recommending it to me. He was like, it's the only good Bryan Singer movie. Every time I would talk about loving different X-Men movies, because I love Days of Future Past, and so anyway, we sat down and watched it.
It's touchy talking about Bryan Singer movies these days.
Well, yeah, I guess that's true. Yeah, I guess it would be touchy. Bryan Singer, and considering who else is in this movie.
Kevin Spacey. Yeah, he's
another blacklist man. All we need is this movie to be produced by Harvey Weinstein, and we hit the trifecta.
Oh yeah,
but,
no, dude. Moving on.
Anywho, away from the cringiness. So it did start off a little slow, but man, that finish, and then the end. I didn't know there was a twist ending. Somehow I didn't know.
Okay.
But I called it like part of the way through the movie. I was just caught it. So nah, it's good. It's definitely worth a watch. I was glad we watched it. So
I don't I mean, I remember watching it, but I don't really remember how I reacted to that. That's not a twist ending that really hit me. But yeah, I do remember enjoying it. I don't really remember anything about it up until the twist ending. But
I don't really remember thinking it was that big of a twist ending. Like, I felt that it was pretty kind of like obvious there was going to be a twist. But sometimes I pick up on those things a lot easier than other people. So.
All right, my last one is a fandom I'm actually picky about. So I've gone on this podcast and, admitted that when it comes to Star Wars movies, I'm just there for a good time. I'm not going to get all offended if this character does that and it's out of character, yada, yada, yada. Same with, what's another fandom that is really touchy?
Trek, Marvel, Harry Potter.
Yeah, okay. So X-Men is like the franchise for some reason that like I'm not like that was my
nice
first
segue, by the way.
Yeah, because Singer, right?
Yeah, because Singer directed at least 3 or 4 of those movies.
Yeah. So I saw X1 and X2 recently with my kids. Just kind of revisit those, and although I can definitely see the reasons I had issues with X1, like whenever I first saw, because that was like my introduction. I was a big fan of the cartoon. Kind of picked up a few comic books after that. Was really into the action figures and stuff. So I was a big X-Men fan. And so I like Wolverine, but he's not my favorite. And for some reason, like, I really think these movies should have been called like Wolverine and the X-Men, because it's the Wolverine show, like, through and through, which is fine in number 2. Number 2, it's Wolverine's story. But in the other two, I mean, they could have taken a more balanced approach and would have annoyed me a heck of a lot less. Like, I know, like, Wolverine's like most everyone else's favorite character, but like, I'm there to see like them be like a team of heroes. And when it's the Wolverine show, that just annoys me, especially since Cyclops was my favorite character and they mock the shit out of him. So kind of picked up on that a little bit more this time. In terms of villains, so there's this Toad guy in part 1, and he tries his best to be interesting, but I really don't care about him at all. But overall, I mean, the special effects in this movie are fantastic. For being a 2000 comic book movie, I mean, that's pretty impressive. Mystique, I mean, they did an incredible job with her. I mean, Patrick Stewart and Ian McKellen as Magneto and Professor X, I mean, spot on casting there. So yeah, X1, pretty decent time, although I don't like Toad. And then X2, I think, is even better. It's Wolverine's story, so and I actually think, even though it is primarily Wolverine's story, like, I think they took a kind of a better approach of making it a more balanced team, even though they totally shelve Cyclops for most of that movie. Not really a fan of Jean Grey. Like, it's not her, like, spoiler, like, I mean, it's X2. Everybody knows what happens in X2. But her dying at the end, that's not really the thing that got me. Like, I was more excited to, like, eventually see the whole Dark Phoenix thing come in part 3, which that's a whole nother story, because that was a huge disappointment. But and then my other beef with X2 is the fact that Colossal is there for all of, like, 30 seconds, which is a bummer. And Wolverine's like, no, I'll take care of this. You just get the children off to safety, Colossus. Thanks God for Deadpool actually giving Colossus a purpose in the movies, which has been fantastic, especially in Deadpool 2 when it was Colossus versus the Juggernaut. That's what I'm talking about. So yeah, Deadpool.
The Juggernaut, bitch.
Deadpool has done. I actually think the Deadpool movies have done X-Men better than the X-Men movies to an extent. I mean, well, there's 10 X-Men movies, so I'm also a fan of Days of Future Past. And one of these days, I'm going to give Logan another shot. Because like I was saying, I'm not the biggest Wolverine fan, so I kind of get a little negative when it comes to Wolverine. Maybe overly so.
But Logan is so ridiculously good.
He was all right.
Oh, hot take coming through. Okay, so
I have to get back to it one of these days, now that the dust has settled.
and watch the noir version. I still need to watch the noir version. Apparently, it's ridiculously good. But X1. So obviously, I grew up. We watched the X-Men cartoon. I loved Wolverine. So I loved the throwback to what would you prefer, blue and yellow spandex. I love that line. I've always loved that line ever since the movie came out. I hated what they did to Rogue because Rogue was my second favorite character.
All right. Yeah, she's pretty much just playing a weepy teenage, want to have a boyfriend girl.
Yeah. Why isn't she flying around? Why isn't she calling everybody sugar? Why isn't she just beating the shit out of people? Like Also, I didn't like there was no Jubilee because she was my other character that I liked, but this was like my third favorite character. And she didn't show up until like Days of Future Past, I think, somewhere. Or sounds right.
Didn't Ellen Page play? Not Ellen Page. Is that
Ellen Page was she was not Jubilee. She's
Kitty Pryde or something.
She's Kitty Pryde. Yes, Jubilee is by the same girl who's in All the Boys I Loved Before on the Netflix original movie, but I can't remember the actress's name. So, but no, I liked X1 and X2. X3, that's a big oof. It's I don't know what's a bigger oof, X3 or Dark Phoenix, because I watched Dark Phoenix earlier this year, and oh man, as much as I loved Sophie Turner, that movie was not very good.
So
Michael Fassbender, no one told him that was a trash movie, and he's out there trying to win an Oscar. As he does, but oh man,
all right.
That was down near the end of the bottom of my list of movies for this year so far. God, that's bad. My last one was I still love this movie, and that's The Boondock Saints, which I also watched on St. Patty's Day, because as I do every year on St. Patty's Day, or at least try to.
Oh, interesting.
So, yes, this is just happened to notice that this is the third time I have logged this movie on Letterboxd since I've started Letterboxd. So 2020, 2019, 2018, and I started after St. Patty's Day in 2017.
Oh, wow.
So
this will be my third time logging Whiplash coming up. So
nice. I'm excited to talk about that movie. But so yeah, it's just so ridiculously quotable. It's so ridiculously bad that it's good. It's so 90s. Like, somebody, for the people who overanalyze everything and are like, oh, this movie would be like, who would say something super violent and would affect people, this is a movie they would pick. Everybody smokes. They're cussing. They're misogynistic. They're racist. They hate on gay people, which is by the gay person himself. It's a relic of, it's a product of its time from 1999. Oh my God. And I love it.
And there's definitely a certain crowd of people that are analytical into movies that would, I mean, I'm analytical into movies, and like, I mean, that kind of stuff doesn't bother me. So just to kind of separate that.
Yeah, this is a movie that is it's just fun, and there are things to it like,
if you're more PC minded, then might be put off.
Oh yeah, yes, for sure. But it's one of those things, like, if you also take into account when it was made, two, like, it's also his characters. Like, I mean, I remember seeing like someone write a review about Rise of Skywalker, and they were like, vegetarian alert, Chewbacca was eating a porg, and I'm like, well, he's a he's a beast, he's an animal. Is an animal eating an animal? He's a carnivore. Like, why are you getting freaked out? It's not like they had Rey eating a porg. But anyway,
they apparently didn't watch the rest of the scene whenever he stops eating the porgs, because they all like frown at him.
yeah, exactly. Like, they're like, he's supposed to be a hero. Why is he eating this cute little animal? And I'm like, because he's a monster.
Anyways, yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, I'm sure somebody would complain that, in Boondock Saints, they killed a cat. they have the racist joke, the what a fag line. They came for the fag man, or there's so much, and it's. But I remember watching this for the first time. I'm like, I think I'm 17. I'm 17, so it's 2002. The movie's been out for about 3 years at this point, and my buddy Troy is showing this to me, and I'd never seen anything like it at the time. It has the Tarantino-like-esque cut in times where you get to one point and they cut back to show you what had happened previously, so it's a disjointed timeline. And then you got the music, like the classical style music mixed in. And it's just this crazy violence. I think this is around the first time I saw Pulp Fiction at some point at very similar times. So they had the disjointed timelines together and everything. So it was, And just ever since then, like I've just been just in love with this movie. This might be the movie I have seen the most. I probably have seen this more than Kill Bill and Pulp Fiction. Yeah, I think this is probably the movie I've seen the most.
I'm due for a revisit. I've seen it twice. The one time you showed it to me, and then I watched it with my dad on Blu-ray, and that was also a great time. So, all right, I am thinking it's time to move into our feature movie, but I need to wet my whistle. So we'll be right back. Did you have something else?
That was the exact same thing I was gonna say.
All right, we'll be right back with Whiplash. Stay tuned. Now to our feature film Whiplash from 2014, which was written and directed by Damien Chazelle. The film was nominated for Best Picture and lost to Birdman that year, but did pick up a Best Supporting Oscar for J.K. Simmons' stunning performance as a determined maniac music teacher. The synopsis from IMDb: a promising young drummer enrolls at a cutthroat music conservatory where his dreams of greatness are mentored by an instructor who will stop at nothing to realize a student's potential. Say that again. All right, we put these movie lists together a long, long time ago, and this is the last one on your list. So, Joey, what led Whiplash to end up on your list?
I honestly don't even remember. I probably heard it was really good or something, to be honest with you.
You're a big fan of La La Land, aren't you?
I am, but I watched La La Land I watched La La Land at the end of 2018, so maybe I knew it was by the same director at the time. I honestly don't know. I think La La Land ended up as my number one movie for 2018. So that might have had something to do with it. I mean, because we made these at the start of 2019.
Yeah.
It was already on my watch list. I don't know. I mean, also, J.K. Simmons definitely should have won Best Supporting Oscar. He won, I think he won the Golden Globe. He won, everything.
Oh, he did?
Yeah, he won everything.
Yeah.
I would like to point out that he maybe should have won Best Oscar. I know he wasn't the lead. He was the lead in this movie.
I was thinking about that a little bit earlier today. Yeah,
this was his movie. Jesus Christ. Also, so I love Birdman. And Birdman was a great movie.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's rough. That's rough.
What?
Whiplash and Birdman. I need to rewatch Birdman now. That's rough, dude.
In a lot of ways, they have a similar feel. I've only seen Birdman the one time. I guess I wanted to start off by doing a little bit of a longer quote, but I really think this quote really much kind of sums up the whole movie. And it's I told you the story about how Charlie Parker became Charlie Parker, right? Joe Jones threw a cymbal at his head. Exactly. Parker's a young kid, pretty good on the sax, gets up to play a cutting session, and he messes it up. And Jones nearly decapitates him for it. and he gets laughed off stage, cries himself to sleep that night. But the next morning, what does he do? He practices. He practices and practices with one goal in mind, never to be laughed at again. And a year later, he goes back to the Reno, and he steps up on stage and plays the best motherfucking solo the world has ever heard. That's this movie in a nutshell.
Oh my God, dude. Dude. All right. So I went into this movie. I knew it was about drumming.
Okay.
Obviously, you can look at the cover of the movie.
Yeah, it's a symbol.
Whatever. Yeah.
Or a drum head, depending
Yeah.
on the cover.
Yeah. So you know what this movie is. You know that much. And I assumed that it was going to be Miles Teller, trying to get out of, out of some bad situation or something, and music was his escape, and or some coming of age movie or something like that, some feel good style of movie, and J.K. Simmons was his father figure teacher kind of deal. So let me tell you how fucking shocked I was.
Yeah.
Boy howdy, I was in for a ride, and I enjoyed every minute of it, but
Awesome.
I was in for a ride.
Yeah, I checked in with you the day after we finally said we're going to be watching this. And I was like, so do you know anything about this? And you're like, I know nothing. I'm like, ooh, I can't wait to hear.
Well, it worked out because I knew nothing about one and you knew nothing about the other. So I guess that that worked itself out.
Yeah. I mean, first of all, it's so, we kind of said the gist of the movie. It's about this guy who really dreams of being this great drummer. He's constantly, so Buddy Rich is a real famous drummer, and so that's his idol. And so he has Buddy Rich posters all over the place. He's constantly listening to Buddy Rich's CD. He reads his book. He's totally obsessed with Buddy Rich. He wants to be this great, fantastic drummer. And so that's kind of where it starts out. Now, the music, I listened to most of this today with headphones on, which was fantastic. The jazz music in this is so upbeat. And I mean, a lot of people will talk about jazz and they're like, oh, I just don't get it. It's kind of dull. But man, this big band jazz stuff, this is what I remember playing in high school. And then this is definitely the kind of jazz music that I'm into. Do you enjoy the music aspect of it?
Oh yeah, the music was great, and it was one of those things very shortly into the movie, me and Carl looked at each other and we were like, yo, Damien Chazelle really loves his jazz music. Yeah. Because I mean, the music in La La Land was also fantastic. Mm-hmm. So
in both movies, he gets a little preachy about the death of jazz a little bit. So it's definitely a chip on his shoulder when he comes into these. You'll notice the movie. I always get a kick out of what the movie theater signs say in movies, and this one happened to say Rafifi, which I finally saw in the last year, so I can finally say that I've seen Rafifi, which is this foreign heist movie in the Criterion Collection. Definitely recommend checking that out. But I've finally seen Rafifi. So much to talk about.
I mean, I'm still sitting here. I watched this on Friday, so we're here on Sunday. I'm still just blown away by the whole ending sequence of this movie. But I'm sure we'll get to that in a minute. But oh my God, dude, the whole ending movie, just so we were talking about how he's obsessed. He's literally obsessed. Miles Teller character is just obsessed with being this best drummer, like you said. So to the point of, so he's a young guy. He's in school. He's a freshman. He goes and asks out the girl at the movie theater. Yep. And they go out on a date, and all he can do is talk about music. And somehow it works. And then they're going out, and he's just I can't be with you anymore because you're gonna start asking me to stop drumming, and you're gonna resent me, and I'm gonna resent you, and it's just gonna be really bad. So we should just break it off now. And I'm just bruh. And then you see near the end of the movie, he ends up calling her back, and she's like, well, I'm with another dude now, and he's like, oh, okay. And it's just
yeah,
oh man,
yeah, it's another low. Generally I hate third act slumps, but man, this one, it puts you down. It makes you feel real low, but it's so worth it with how they climb back up. I had mentioned that I watched most of this with headphones on. The whole climax, I was like, okay, I know there's not going to be any more cussing. Like my kiddos were running around. I'm going to jam this. I'm going to turn up my home theater as loud as I can, and I'm going to listen to this, then play Caravan at the end. And that was a glorious experience. Seen it many, many times, but I still get those good movie chills every time I watch it. Going back to the movie theater, like kind of going in a little bit of chronological order here. I love the metaphor that we get whenever he's sitting there with his dad. And you can kind of tell that they don't connect really. But it's hilarious how they show that with how his dad likes Raisinets on the popcorn, which I think is crazy. And so does the main character. And so he like pours the Raisinets on the popcorn, and Miles Teller is just like, yeah, I'll just eat around that, Dad, no worries. And he's just like, I just don't understand you. And that's completely the case when it comes to these two's relationship. And you see that a little later on whenever they have like a family dinner.
Ooh, that family dinner, hoy,
it's a little icy.
Icy is dicey even.
Yeah. I had never watched the short film about Whiplash. So apparently Damien Chazelle, he got the attention of J.K. Simmons, and he's like, I want to make this short film. And so basically the whole sequence, like 20 minutes into the film, where they're having a rehearsal, and he gripes at this guy about being out of tune, which we'll probably get into more in just a second. That part, and then the Not My Tempo part after he like makes friends with the Miles Teller character. He asks him about his family life, and then they go in, and then they have that whole scene about him being off tempo. So basically those two scenes are within this like 20-minute short that you can watch on YouTube, which was the original concept. And based on the success of that, especially because J.K. Simmons was in it, they were able to expand it into the feature film, thank goodness. And so definitely recommend checking out the short as well. Had to throw that out there. But even in the short, like you can see how like Damien Chazelle knew exactly how to like capture the feeling of like a rehearsal room. I mean, the camera's zipping all over the place. Like it shows, like it zooms up to like what the key signature is on the music, what the notes are there. So like in terms of like what a musician's thinking when they're looking at music, in terms of like what they're looking at on a page, it shows exactly what they would be looking at. It shows like the cases go up on the chairs, open up all crisp like. It shows spit valves being emptied. It shows guys like tuning up. And it just totally captures the feel of what it's like to sit in one of these rehearsal halls. And I don't think I got into it. I was in band for middle school, high school, college, drum corps. So I kind of lived this life for a long time. And so that's part of the reason why this one hit so strong to my chords.
How J.K. Simmons just like how he played the guys like fiddles, basically. How he could get him to do pretty much whatever he wanted. Mm-hmm. Especially Miles Teller, like he could tell that he was obsessed, I guess. And so how he could use the other guys to manipulate him. Yeah, to manipulate him so hard. So he when he first basically auditioned him to be in the comp band. It was I don't remember the guy's name. It was the redheaded kid. And then once Miles Teller, through an accident, became not an alternate. He brought the core member, yeah. Yeah, he became a core member. He brought that guy in to push him, and it pissed him off. And there was so much detail. Even especially when I hear you talk about some of the stuff that you probably paid more attention to because you know more about it. Like it's ridiculous. And
like even me as like a musician, like whenever he's getting on his case about what the tempo is, like I can kind of hear slight differences, but like the amount of time he lets them like drum, I mean, like what the tempo is, like I don't see how he could pick that up. And what I think it mostly is he's just messing with him. And
he was just such an asshole.
And when, I mean, like, I felt for the trombone kid. Like, whenever he gets up in his face and he's like, are you in tune? Are you in tune? Why don't you know this? And whenever someone's in your face like that, a lot of people, I mean, myself included, I would freeze up. And like, I mean, you could be the most confident person in the world, but whenever somebody's in your face like that, they'll make you feel like you're about yay tall. So,
especially someone as revered as he was supposed to be and as well respected. And
yeah, because they all wanted a shot at being in his band.
Yeah, he's like, he's a bigwig, and he's not a small man in this movie. Like, he's old, but he's still looks like he's pretty shredded up. And like,
oh yeah, every time he puts his arm up, and it's like he's all jacked with his guns hanging out.
Yeah, I mean, plus he wants his pictures of Spider-Man still, so
I got a kick out of how, like, after Miles does get let into the show band, like how he uses that swagger to actually ask the girl out. So that kind of comes together, and it cracked me up, like how Miles, like we've said over and over how obsessed he is, but he has a definite plan of what he wants to do. He wants to go to Schaefer, he wants to be pushed as hard as he can, and he wants to be a great drummer. And he meets this girl, and she's like, I'm undecided. I don't know why I'm at this school. I'm just kind of a free spirit, and he just does not see eye to eye with that at all. And the only thing they can actually relate with is the fact that, like, they kind of miss their parents a little bit. And that's like the only connection point they have. Otherwise, like, already Miles is just like, yeah, you and me, we kind of do two different birds here.
Yeah, and I don't know. Like, he seemed to like her, and like he was maybe she was the opposite, but he was too obsessed. But then you see the scene of like where he's just playing until he's bleeding and bleeding and bleeding and bleeding, and then he like punches the drum and then he's ice in his hand, and then he has the one
great scenes.
And they have where all three drummers are going back and forth until like 2 or 3 in the morning, and he earns the spot, which then leads into the scene where I guess is like the big turning point in the movie almost, where he gets T-boned in the car because
devastating.
I was not expecting that, and then he gets out of the car. I was expecting him, I was like, he gets hit. I'm like, okay, his arm's broken, or something of that nature. And then no, he's so
wound up,
obsessed that he goes into the competition. And obviously he's hurt and probably concussed, maybe a broken arm.
And they do a really good job at. I noticed this time whenever like you hear a lot of times you'll just hear the jazz music, but then like sometimes you'll just hear this tone, and I really think that that's a great way of reflecting the fact that like he's in the zone thinking about one thing in those moments whenever you just hear the tone instead of like the music around him.
And then he basically goes up when he passes out on the drums, and he's like, yeah, you're out of here. And he spears J.K. Rowling. J.K. Rowling's. That would have been
Expelliarmus.
Yeah. J.K. Simmons. And then they get into that big fight.
Yeah.
And he gets expelled from Schaefer, and they, his dad and his lawyer or whatever, like, hey, all you got to do is, tell him he made things miserable for you, and that's why this other guy committed suicide, blah, blah, blah. And it's, which just leads up to towards that end scene, which is just so powerful.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
And I mean, even right from the beginning of the movie, like he's playing mind games. Like he's talking to him, like Miles is being all confident, and he's just like, "What are you doing?" And he's like, "Oh well, why'd you stop?" And he starts playing again, and he's like, "Why'd you start playing again? I didn't ask you to do that." He's just constantly messing with him. I
told him at 6 a.m. and no one else was there.
Yeah, that was what I was about to get to. Yeah, the band didn't actually start till 9 a.m. But because that like. Whenever you have something new that you're excited for the next day, it's like hard to sleep. And so he has him get up at, 6 a.m. in the morning, and he didn't need to be there. Did you notice your copy of the film being really yellow?
I didn't, but I mean, we rented it off of Prime.
Okay.
So I didn't notice anything that was yellow. Like I see that in your notes here, and I'm like, man, did I miss that? And I don't remember that.
Yeah, overall it has a very yellowy look, but like what drives me nuts is there's some cases where the yellow hues are really apparent on people's faces. Like I don't know if that was a stylistic choice or maybe they just went overboard with like the saturation on the colors on the print, but something about this film being a little too yellow. If I had one little nitpick, that would definitely would it be. I don't think it's a stylistic choice like with Cowardness or something. No, I don't really think. I think that's going a little bit too.
I mean, because I definitely don't think, obviously, I don't think the main two guys were cowards because, like, the only person who stood up to him was Miles Teller because he got up in his face. He yelled at him. He was like, oh, what, you're going to kick me off the band? Bullshit. And he's like, I'll be back. This is my spot. I earned it. And he's like, this is my band. I let you in it. And so he was the only one who ever really stood up to him. Everybody else was like, and didn't, wouldn't say anything or whatever. So, I guess maybe.
And so when I was watching it this afternoon, like you kind of think that like a lot of times like teachers who like are real hard asses, the reason they're like that is because like they had aspirations of being professionals, but it just didn't work out. So they were reduced to teaching. And so I was thinking that, but then later on, J.K. Simmons' character Fletcher, he actually explains how like, playing professionally, he's like, yeah, it's all right, whatever. He actually gets off most on like driving people to success, which is very obvious by the fact that how he approaches his classes. And I'll tell you, I mean, he's an extreme example, but man, I had some music teachers in college and drum corps who were constantly in my face, and like they weren't too far off from this. Definitely not like smacking you in the face or anything, but definitely belittling you and trying to drive you to be your best. And sometimes it's not the best way to do things. I mean, the best example, I mean, easily. Did you mention Full Metal Jacket earlier?
Not Full Metal Jacket. I mentioned the Coppola's Apocalypse.
Oh, well, yeah, in a different segment. I was just going to get at the fact that Sergeant Hartman from Full Metal Jacket, I mean, that's the only other character I can think of that is that intense towards people, but kind of humorous at the same time with just how brutal he is. Wow, it's quite the performance. Definitely Oscar worthy. Yeah, and gosh, it just shows how hard he works. I mean, he wears the skin off of his hand constantly trying to get this double rhythm jazz beat going on, and he's just killing himself trying to get it because he just wants that greatness. What'd you think of the mysterious folder disappearance?
Oh, they never said it. I think he totally did that on purpose.
Oh yeah.
I totally kept expecting someone to find it. Like I was like, oh, it's behind the drink machine. Someone's gonna find it later, or like you were gonna see it sitting in his room or something. But
yeah, never really goes back to it. But somehow Fletcher got that because I mean it just vanishes, and he knew the other player couldn't play without it, and he was given Miles his shot.
Oh man, so the scene where you talk about dinner, where he goes up, I guess it was on his cousin or his neighbor's kid or something.
Yeah, I think they're cousins or whatever. Because the dad seems very defensive of his brother's kids or whatever. Where it's kind of odd that he's not more on what's Miles' character's name in the movie? Andrew.
Andrew, yeah. Wow, you think I remember that name? But I don't know, because it seemed like everybody was so, oh, you're playing football and blah blah blah, and they were all into him playing football and not onto
this and this and that.
Yeah, and Andrew's in this. He's at this really prestigious music school. It's like the best music school in the country at Schaefer. He's in the competition band. He's the main drummer in the band, and they're just like, oh, okay, whatever. And then they're like, oh, you're playing Division III football, and like not. And I say that in the way that like kind of Andrew would say it, like, you're playing Division III football. Yeah, that's a big deal. Like, I never played Division III football. Shit. Like, I would have been happy playing Division III football. Like, but, the dude goes off the deep end. He's like, yeah, 4 words, never going to play for the NFL or whatever it was, that paraphrasing there. And it's like, all right, brother, you just flayed that guy alive. Like, you sound like Fletcher.
Yeah, a little bit. And then almost whenever they bring the redheaded competition in afterwards, he almost feels like kind of a jock type compared to like the other guy. So it's almost like he's competing against an athlete. So I kind of picked up on that a little bit this time, how that kind of brought over that whole competition aspect that Andrew has with people, because he wants to be the best and he wants to be the guy. Yeah, and that scene where they break up, it's pretty devastating, and she lays out pretty much exactly what he's thinking, and then he turns and he's just like, yeah, I pretty much agree with that. Yeah, because he thinks that like she's gonna hold him back somehow, and he's just like totally dead set. He thinks he's earned it, he's in his spot, and then it's all going to come crashing down just because he was late, and then he forgot his sticks, and he gets in the accident, and he loses his spot, and he won't accept that because Fletcher's just driven him into this nutty mindset for sure.
So now we're to the part. So he gets his own. He's working, I guess, as a barista or something, and he gets his own place. And he's walking around at night, and he goes into this jazz bar because he sees Fletcher's name on the marquee, or I guess the chalkboard, not a marquee, whatever. And he goes in and he watches him, and Fletcher sees him. So they sit down to have a drink, and they start talking. And Fletcher is so good at manipulating people. Oh my God, he plays him like a fiddle, man. Like he plays him like Johnny in Devil Went Down to Georgia. Like, good Lord. He gets him to just...
Oh, and let's not forget the fact that the lawyer does, like, because Fletcher comes up to the band and he's all emotional, and he says, like, yeah, I had this former student, he died in a car accident or whatever. But then later on, we find out by the lawyer that this former student actually committed suicide to build this case against Fletcher with actually driving students to the brink, which pretty much is doing with Andrew. And so you can really see the reluctance on Andrew's face, actually signing this lawsuit, but eventually, he goes with it. And so that gets Fletcher fired.
Yeah, because between the lawyer and his dad, they're both pressuring him into it. And finally he goes, all right, I'll just say whatever you want me to say.
Mm-hmm. And it's so heartbreaking whenever he's cleaning up his dorm room at Schaefer, and we see these videos of him drumming as a kid, and it really puts some depth into the fact of how long he's been working at this, and all of a sudden it's getting all thrown away just because of how this huge down moment just totally exploded and was just a complete disaster. It's heartbreaking seeing he probably has a broken hand, and he's trying to drum, and his darn drumsticks flinging all over the place, and it's just total it's just so devastating.
So as we fast forward back to where I was, he's talking with Fletcher, and Fletcher's just all yeah, I like being in this band, but it's not the same as teaching. No one there knew what I was doing. I was trying to drive people, but I never had in this one student who was as good as
Charlie Parker.
Yeah, Charlie Parker. And I was just trying to get that one student. And he's like, but I'm doing this performance on Friday, Sunday, whatever day, and the drummer's not cutting it. We're running Caravan and all the same stuff from the core group, and he's like, I want you to be in it. And so he thinks about it, and he decides to do it, and that's when he calls up Homegirl and invites her and ends up her boyfriend. And they get on the stage, and he looks at the sheet music, and it says Caravan across the top, and then Fletcher starts talking, and Fletcher tells everybody before they go out on stage, he's like, these are the best of the best. If you do great, you can get whatever job you want. If you suck, you suck, and you're never going to get another job in music in this town, blah, blah, blah. And he goes up on the stage, and he's like, these are the best musicians in this area.
Maybe in the world.
Maybe in the world. And he goes, well, we're going to play a new one. And he looks at Andrew, and he goes, I know it was you. And you're just like, oh, shit.
Yeah.
And I was just like, man, because there was they were sitting at the bar, and Andrew could have told him, hey, man, it was me. My dad forced me to. I didn't want to do it. He had opportunities, and he just didn't tell him. He didn't ever come clean. And then
And he's already nervous coming into this. Like, there's a great scene where, like, you can kind of see the beads of sweating on his forehead, and his palms a little sweaty. So he's like nervous, like thinking this is his one shot to like get back in the game. And there's that great quote that Fletcher has whenever they're sitting there, and he's talking about like his philosophy, and he says, "There are no two words in the English language more harmful than good job." And that's really going back to his core philosophy of just driving people to be perfect, be the greatest, which is what this movie's all about.
And then the song starts, and he doesn't know what to do. So like, he doesn't have the music. It's a song he doesn't know. So he just kind of freestyles it. And the guy next to him, the celloist or whatever, is just like, "Yo, what the fuck are you?" Bassist. I don't remember what instrument. No, he's just like, he's just making stuff up. He's trying to freestyle it as best he can, and then the song ends, and he walks up to him. Fletcher walks up to him. I don't remember if he says something to him, or maybe he says, "You're done," I think.
Pretty much,
something,
I think,
yeah, something like that. And
total humiliation. That perfect nightmare scenario of you wake up and you're like, I didn't study for this test, and you're just sitting there like, oh, I don't know what to do.
Yeah, just completely unprepared. And so he takes his jacket off and he walks off and he hugs his dad, and then he's like, "Screw this." And he turns around and he walks back and he just starts playing.
Yep.
Like in the middle of Fletcher talking. Just in the middle. And he just starts playing, and he's like, "I'll cue you in." And then he cues in all the rest of the guys, and he just starts playing. And then he goes on.
He recognizes that it's Caravan, and Fletcher's like, all right, we can play Caravan. And he does a great job playing Caravan.
Yeah, and then after that, he just keeps playing, like this crazy solo.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, "What are you doing, man?" And he's like, "I'll cue you in."
Yeah.
And then at this point, this is the point where, like I said in my review, like game recognizes game, because like Fletcher recognizes just like, okay, this dude's nuts. Like he's like nuts, and he's nuts good, and he's like, okay, and he like tells him to like bring down the tempo and.
Yeah. There's even that scene where the cymbal kind of falls, and he straightens the cymbal back up for him. Like, yeah, he definitely starts getting some mad respect and like seeing eye to eye with, how much he actually wants this.
He's like, all right, the dude is like, it's two guys who are just crazy, like nuts. Like, I guess it was two alphas almost. Just, this is the best way to put it. And then it just ends. Like. It just ends in the middle of it, or I guess at the end of it. I guess is
at the very end of the tune. Like, so he goes off on this crazy drum solo, and he brings it all the way down to where it's nice and quiet. And then he brings it back up, and then he cues the band to get the final big note, and then that's it.
Yeah, I was expecting there to be like I don't know. This is a movie where I expected there to be like some text at the end, like to tie it up. Oh, they ended up they toured together, or they formed a band, or he ended up getting a job. It's because of this performance he got a job at such and such. Blah 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 blah. Carnegie Mellon. I don't know, something, whatever. I'm just something, but whatever. It just. I mean, not complaining about the end. That just felt like that. This was the movie that needed the text dialogue at the end.
Oh no, I don't know. From my perspective, it's complete. I mean, he throws it back in his face, delivers the performance of a lifetime, and mic drop right there. Heart pounding drum solo there just gives me the tingles, and it's just so good that it's the culmination of everything, and he lays it all out there, and Fletcher respects him for it.
Oh yeah, no, it was really good. It was a really good ending. It was just like if you were gonna compare it to the other movie that had that text box that we were talking about earlier, if there was one to be one, it feels like that would have been the one. It's perfectly, more than perfectly fine without it. Mm-hmm. It just felt like if there was gonna be one, that's where it could have been.
Gotcha. But yeah, this is one of my favorite movies. It's definitely strikes a chord with me. Hopefully we've done it justice with talking about it. I think we have. We've talked it our feelings about it, and I think it's a masterpiece. 5 stars.
Oh yeah, 5 stars easily. So it, for my ongoing movie list of 2020 has overtaken the top spot. And for most of the year, it has been Zombieland 2. It held off Fargo barely. So like Fargo was number 2 behind
Nice.
Zombieland 2. So now it's 3 because this is number 1, which I guess is kind of funny because 2018's number 1 movie was Damien Chazelle or Chazelle in La La Land, and last year's number 1 was The Big Lebowski. So,
Nice.
yeah, which is same directors as Fargo, so a lot of tie-ins there. So here we are.
Yeah. All right, let's get into our challenge movie. We're going to talk about something, as you said in your tease, completely different.
A little bit.
You want to tee this one up some?
All right. So last time I challenged Justin in my last challenge of the season and the foreseeable future to watch the Japanese splatter flick Tokyo Gore Police. And it is exactly what it sounds like. Lots of blood, lots of gore. And I'm not even going to lie. It had probably been about 5 years since I had seen this. So there was a lot of stuff I had forgotten. So
there's a lot packed in there for sure.
Oh yeah. Earlier when you said you started drinking and I was like, oh man, Justin watched this drunk. Oh Lord.
No, I was watching my eyelids more. I had to start from the beginning and go back through. I do remember waking up and seeing a giant monster cock and I'm being like, huh?
Somehow I forgot about that.
Wow.
I forgot about the giant monster cock that shot bullets, and the fact that how he got that was because he had his dick bitten off. Mm-hmm. I remembered the girl with the alligator mouth where her pussy was.
Yeah.
And I remembered like the rocket jump. I remembered the man with the bullet eyes and bullet brain.
Okay, you're jumping way ahead here, but
yeah.
So this film it could be rated NC-17 X. It's actually not rated. So this movie is absolute bonkers, violent, gross. Probably one of the cringiest movies I've ever seen. So if that doesn't sound like your cup of tea, let's fast forward to the end and you can hear what we're doing next. So yeah, Tokyo Gore Police. It reminded me a lot of Starship Troopers. It has a lot of these like cutaways to where they're kind of like doing. I don't want to jump too far ahead, but yeah, there's a lot of these PSA cutaways, just like Starship Troopers. So this thing is definitely a satire. And it dishes out this grotesquely hilarious bloodbath of rubbery flesh and violence and vengeance, which we all know. Joey loves a good woman with some vengeance on her hand kind of story. All right. So if we imagine this movie as a birthday cake, which there are a couple of birthday cakes in this movie, there's an absurd amount of bloody icing on this thing. So let's just talk about the cake. Let's go down to the story. We'll talk about the meat, and then we'll talk about all the crazy stuff that's piled up on top shortly. All right. So the main character is this girl named Ruka, and she's played by the same lady who's in Audition, which Joey had pointed out in the last episode. And we find out she is a member of the Tokyo Police Corporation, who are mostly this band of cops dressed like black samurai, which reminded me just like Darth Vader, which Darth Vader was inspired by samurai, so a little vice versa kind of thing going there. Especially the chief, who had this microphone thing in front of his face. All right, so Ruka is a specialty cop because she hunts these like super criminals known as engineers. And the thing about these engineers is they have this key-shaped tumor, which whenever like a part of their body gets blown off, it reconjures into like some kind of weapon. So like the first thing that happens is like this guy's arm like blows off, and before I get, I'm gonna get there in a second. But anyways, his arm comes back and he has a chainsaw, and there's this whole chainsaw duel, and Ruku takes out her like samurai blade and she cuts him up, and there's all this violence and blood, and so yeah, there's that stuff. some other examples of things that get conjured up, like Joey had talked about the lady who's in between her legs turns into a crocodile, and this one guy gets his head taken off and his head turns into like a cannon tank, and even Rucka, like at one point, well, that's on our spoiler section. So in flashbacks, we find out that Rucka's father, he was also a police officer, and he was against the privatization of the police force. And so basically, what I kind of saw as crazy as this movie is, there's kind of like a theme, a metaphor to it all, and it's about like being anti-police privatization, because like having a force like this that has unlimited power would just be way too dangerous. And then there's a lot of comments on like, I think, Japanese society on death and suicide like throughout, which I don't know a whole lot about, but it's very on the surface in this movie, so I'm pretty sure that's what it is. The movie reminded me a little bit of House with how crazy it is. I know you weren't a big fan of House, so it'd be kind of this definitely plays into your wheelhouse in terms of like samurais and vengeance and stuff. So it's not like House, but I mean, these Japanese, they definitely know how to put together a nutty movie.
Yes, it's definitely the similarities of it being way out there, like Jose is very, very much out there. Yes.
And I must say, there's a lot of uncomfortable moments in this, a lot of stuff that made me like squirm in my seat. And yes, it definitely shot within the top 5 of my cringe movie bucket list. This one's a hard watch, but it doesn't go all the way up to the top, because those movies are ones that do it like make me cringe mercilessly. Hard to say that word. Where this one kind of does it tongue in cheek. So there's a little bit of a difference there. So did I kind of nail the plot there? Anything else you have to say on that?
No, I think you got it. I'm trying to remember if there was anything you missed, but I think you got it pretty well.
I got the spoiler section after we talk about all the icing, all the nuttiness in the middle that we're gonna get into.
Yeah, dude. This yeah, and you compared it to Starship Troopers. I think me and Carl compared it more to like RoboCop, but
same director, yeah, Paul Verhoeven.
Yeah, same kind of deal. Like this super violent, like hyper violence is bad kind of thing. But yeah, I think it's been a while since I've seen RoboCop, and I was like watching I actually watched like a review of this movie to prepare. Oh my God, look at me trying to be like Justin.
Well, I didn't actually do that.
Yeah,
was it a good review?
It was pretty decent. So apparently apparently in Starship Troopers they did this too, where they have they have the girls doing like the commercials or whatever here.
Yeah.
And apparently they did that in RoboCop as well. So that was one of the things. So apparently that's something that he does. The Paul Verhoeven does a lot. So. Yeah, I think it's kind of supposed to be. It takes a lot of influence from those kind of movies, or probably especially those two movies specifically.
So the special effects in this thing are like ridiculously bad, but I actually think that's to the film's benefit, because if they were more realistic, I think this might almost be unwatchable with how disgusting it gets.
Yeah, because like the one scene at the beginning before she does the rocket jump, which is also just absolutely absurd. Because that's one of the things, like one of the lasting images that I had of this movie was the rocket jump at the beginning. Okay. But before that, she's like cutting her arm with a razor blade.
Yeah, a whole like wrist slashing thing, and she's like cutting it to the point where there's no skin left, but you can obviously tell that it's rubber.
Yeah, and it's like that's really bad. Even for like 2008, I think that was bad. I don't remember it looking that bad, but I had forgotten about that. Mm-hmm. So,
yeah, that was very uncomfortable to start off with. But yeah, like the more it goes on, you're like, I guess they're trying to make this amusing, but I'm having a hard time watching it.
I remember finishing this movie the first time. And this is back at my old house, and me and Carl watched it together, and I just kind of looked at him. I was like, brother, what the fuck is this? What am I, probably multiple times during the movie, like, what is this movie? What do you have me watching? And he had already had me watch Ichi the Killer, which is actually like a good splatter movie. Probably might be the two best splatter movies, but Ichi the Killer is Miki, so an actual director. The guy who directed this movie is very much known for these kind of movies. It's kind of his wheelhouse, but there were some shots in this one where it's like, man, this guy could actually be a director.
Oh yeah.
Like the escalator and some other stuff. So, but he seems to like this kind of stuff, and there's a big appeal for it in Japan. So, hey.
So some of the PSAs that stood out for me, the Harikari one, where like all of a sudden like the guy has like mutant intestines like sticking out. That was pretty crazy. Saying don't commit Harikari, it's suicide. There's one like promoting wrist cutting, and they have like this special razor blade to cut your wrists, which was pretty wacky. And then there's like this one about like executions where they're like doing like an execution like Wiimote style, which was pretty crazy. I noticed a few times like there's a lot of like the whole like cut an arm off, and there's like this whole like spraying blood everywhere splatter film style. I noticed a few occasions where I think they forgot to put enough red stuff in, and so it actually kind of looked like water kind of just spraying out. So yeah, pretty low. I guess the best word is special effects you're not necessarily supposed to take seriously. And some of the cringiest moments for me was like whenever they're like digging at like people's flesh, and they're like picking out little pieces of flesh, and there's like this scene at the end where they got this drill and they're like drilling into this person's leg, and I'm like, oh, that's awful. On a lighter note, this girl has an autographed birthday cake, which I thought was an interesting touch.
Yeah, no, they definitely did some stuff in this movie, man. Like I said, I had forgotten a good portion of this movie. I just remembered that it was absurdly over the top, and the things that I did remember were absurd. So I think the least absurd might have been her rocket jumping up the entire building, and then the chainsaws at the beginning. I think the beginning, but you start off that absurd, and that's the least absurd thing in the movie. Yeah.
And even like the section where like they're watching this person eat bugs on a subway train for no reason. Yeah, that's pretty grody. There's a part where they go into like this sex club, and there's like all these people in latex, and they have like these prostitutes up there that have like carved numbers in their butts, and like there's like these girls with like their breasts are cut open and like they're shown stitched up, and it's very just there's a lot of really the imagery in the movie is pretty intense. It definitely tries to get it kind of like push that screwdriver in and start twisting it, see what's going to make you squirm. You had mentioned earlier the dick getting bit off part, and that guy ends up being an engineer, so it grows back and is like this monster tank flesh cock.
Yeah, because homeboy with his brain out and guns for eyes is like, hey, do you want to be one of us now? And he's like, sure. And then he's walking around with like obviously his leg would be flesh, but now it's like exposed flesh, arm and leg, and then the cock gun just shooting everything. And I was like, what? And I had somehow forgotten that, and I don't understand how I could have removed that from my memory, but I remembered the girl with the alligator mouth where her lower half of her body would have been.
Yeah.
But I definitely made the reference to the Cheech Marin, we got all kinds of pussy. We got snapping pussy. When I watched it this time, I was like, all right, that's. I think I'll take my chances with the vampires. So
and I think my favorite shot in the whole thing. This guy's like groping a girl on the subway, and like she takes him out to like this lot, and, like cuts off his arms, and they start spraying blood everywhere, and she takes out her umbrella and starts walking away, and the shot's like completely like lit in red or whatever. Very, very pretty shot. Just kind of comes out of nowhere, but it looks really nice.
That was Ruka, right?
I think so.
Yeah, I think it was. I mean, I was like, this is Oren Ishii. I was like, and they're like, oh, she's supposed to look like her in this movie. So
lots of fluids going everywhere, blood. God, there's one part where I think one of the engineers like she gets like her front half like gets cut off and like she starts spraying acid out. That was pretty wacky.
The girl who had the razor blade hand, who was in like the schoolgirl outfit, like looked like she was Sakura from the fighting game. Yeah, I think it's Sakura. That might be the wrong character, but yeah.
I love the music. The music is very intense, especially in all these really cringy moments. It's real, like kind of. Sometimes it's more like it's like a score, but kind of made to sound kind of like rock music. So that was all really cool and intense. They do an awesome job with really making like the swords go swing, swing, swing. The sound effects on all the metal of the swords was pretty cool. This is the first movie I've ever noticed. Like, you know what muzzle flashes are?
Yeah.
Where like if you make like amateur like shooting and like iMovie or whatever, you would like download these muzzle flash like effects in order to make it look like your guns are shooting. This is the first time I've ever actually noticed that in a real movie. I was like, oh, those that's just like special flashes in front of those machine guns there. How cheap of them, I guess. I don't know.
I mean, I watched another Japanese movie, might have been last year, and they definitely did this thing is a giant creature. Here are the cars underneath it, and they were definitely toys. This was a movie made like 2 years ago, 3 years ago, and it's like, so yeah, they don't they go super cheap if they gotta.
Yeah, kind of reminds me of Godzilla. You catch a little bit of that, and talked about that a few episodes ago. Well, like half a year ago. Anyways. All right, so going into our spoiler section, we do find out eventually that Roka turns into an engineer, which is a good excuse to give her some mutant abilities. But she ends up killing like the main engineer, so she becomes like the main engineer. But then for some reason, like the police start, and correct me if like I'm missing something here, but it seemed like for no reason all of a sudden the police started like killing everyone. Was there something that kicked that off, or did I miss it?
So the main guy who she'd been hunting, who ended up creating all of the engineers and put the tumor inside of her, tells her the story. It was his father who killed her father, and then it was the chief of police that killed his father that had raised Rucka, and when she killed him, she went to go after him, and I guess at that point, like the police, some order or something went out. I kind of missed that. Something happened, and yeah, they just kind of were like, we're gonna kill everybody.
Oh, and I can't. I actually wrote that part of the thing out, so I have to read this. So she learns that her father was assassinated, and then the assassin gets assassinated himself. Yeah. So
yeah,
if that's not convoluted enough.
So they show the one scene where the dude has the gun up to her father's head and shoots him, and then they pan the scene out, and there's another guy right behind him with another gun. And I'm just like, what kind of Mickey Mouse bullshit is this?
Oh, and then the animation. It's not like animation. It's like middle school drawn pictures of assassins and stuff instead of like actual animation. It's pretty
I mean,
low key.
Like this is from Japan, so like this is the most live action anime ever. Like this is just like such an anime.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, lots and lots of bad effects. There's a part where like all of a sudden the chief like injects himself with like some green serum, and all of a sudden he starts spraying more blood and flying around the room, and it's pretty ridiculous.
Yeah. He shoots himself with the first green thing, and it's like, okay, he's hulking out. And then during the part of the fight, like she cuts his legs off or his feet off, and so she shoots himself with he shoots himself in the legs with the rest of the two containers. And I'm like, oh my god, he's gonna fly with blood, isn't he? And then he fucking did. And I was just like,
it's the cheesiest effect of all time. Oh and not to mention the what is it, a GIMP? They have like this. They have this little sex slave thing that's like kind of like leathered up, like you would see in Pulp Fiction.
Well, it's good to know that after his master got hit with the hard blowtorch hitting individuals, that he made her way to Japan.
And this gimp lady or guy or whatever it is, like it's blade hands and feet and is crawling all over the place, and then I guess whenever it starts serving Rucka, she gets like machine gun. Anyways, this movie's out of control, crazy.
A little bit.
Yeah, it was an interesting time. What would I rate this? I guess this is a movie where, I mean, you respect the fact that it really goes after that cringe factor and be entertaining and palatable at the same time. I guess I would rate this like 3.5 star, 3.5 stars, something like that. It's something. It's a novelty.
I gave it. I mean, I had previously rated it a 3, which was just out of sheer memory of absurdity, and I just kind of left it in there because, like, yeah, it's definitely not a great movie. It's probably just an average. It's absurd, like you said, and I'm sure that if you're listening to this rather, and you're just like, man, this movie sounds crazy absurd. Like, be prepared. We may not have made it sound as absurd as it is.
Mm-hmm.
Or there might be some people out there who are like, nah, this isn't absurd. There's this movie, and it's way more absurd. And if you have found a movie that you think is way more absurd, please, by all means, put it in the comments, because I want to know. I might already have it in a list of movies to watch. I have got an absurd list of movies to watch, and I don't mean absurd as in this. I just absurd length. But I want to know. I do like the Japanese movies quite a lot.
Nice. All right. So, all right, we've come to the end of the show, and we are heading into episode 20. And surprise, surprise, it's going to be the last. Our feature movie is going to be the last one on my list, which is, what is it, Joey?
Kicking and Screaming?
By Noah Baumbach.
Yeah.
Hadn't seen it before. Looking forward to it. And we got that challenge movie, right?
Yeah, I'm looking to see what you give me. And quick note before we get there, I am very surprised, by the way. I was expecting, I don't know what I was expecting out of your review for that, of Tokyo Gore Police, but I was definitely expecting a lot more of maybe a negative reaction than what you gave, to be 100% honest.
Okay, I mean, if you're going in there hating that movie, you're coming into it wrong. you gotta be there for the absurdity of it all, for sure.
Fair enough.
Yeah, and there's no way you take that movie seriously. Good.
And I'm because I was like, if Justin misses the point and he takes this seriously, he's going to he is going to kill me. I'm very interested to what this challenge is going to be. I'm expecting something big and grandiose for the final episode here.
Which actually I was thinking about earlier. So next season we are going to be doing basically like themed. So we've come up with this like a set of criteria. So like each week each episode, like it'll be a topic and we're gonna match that topic. And I was thinking maybe even season 3, maybe just do like just a season full of like what we consider like great movies, and doing 2 great movies per episode. So my brain's kind of spinning now. But okay, so I went to the Book of Joey, and for this, so my quote at the beginning and the challenge movie are related.
Okay.
So there's that.
So are they related by the actor?
Yep.
'Cause that's normally how I do it.
Yeah, William Dafoe.
All right, Willem Dafoe. Okay.
Okay, so a little... And this is my favorite... Okay, before I give that hint, because I kind of want you to guess it, I guess. This kind of movie is kind of special to us because we went to the movie theater our freshman year of college and saw a kind of movie like this.
Okay, so are we talking about The Passion of the Christ?
That is
Talk
the
about-
movie that we saw. And this is my favorite Scorsese movie. So, and this is on your watch list.
The Last Temptation of Christ.
That's gonna be it's gonna be around Easter time, so perfect timing.
Okay, all right. Well, there we go.
Yeah, I don't. I'm glad it is on your watch list. I hate to make somebody watch a religious movie that's not game for it, but it being on your watch list, you have some interest. It's a Scorsese flick, and yeah, it's an amazing experience. I know you're not the most religious person, but I mean, it's quite the experience. So I hope you enjoy it.
All right, dude, I'm looking forward to it. That'll be again. I think we'll have some stark contrast, and we'll have some good things to talk about going into with some of those reveals for the next season.
Yeah, we don't like to typically get into political topics too much on this show, but yeah, let's live a little dangerously, talk a little bit of religion. I know this is very polarizing for people, so yeah, I'll give my take. Yeah, like I already said, it's one of my favorite Scorsese movies, so obviously I'm already a fan. So yeah, we'll see if how that stacks up, and what you think about it. So,
all right, I'm looking forward to it.
Cool. All right, so thanks so much, everyone that's following the show. And if you want to join the movie club, the Average Joe's Movie Club, that is, make sure to hit subscribe.
All right, and if you ever want us to, answer a question or anything, please email us at the Average Joe's Movie Club @gmail.com, or follow us on our Facebook page. There's a nice big button that just emails us directly, or at either one of our letterboxd or anything like that.
Yep, hadn't heard from anybody in a while, and we'll take all the time we need to answer as many questions. I mean, we're itching on 2 hours into the show. We have no problem with talking movies long into the night. So, all right. Well, anyone that's stuck with us this long, we really appreciate it. We've talked about some interesting things this evening. Anyways, there's no reason to digress back into all that. So, all right. Happy movie watching, everyone. Cheers.
Night, everybody.
You and I have unfinished business.
Oh? And what's so stinking about it?
Non mi piace il feeling. Spirito Santo.
I think this just might be my masterpiece.